Hi, welcome to your shipper update. I'm Mike Vincent. He's Anthony Smith. What day is it, my friend?
It's Thursday, and Michael Vincent, you are incredibly impressive, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I have to admit, it's Thursday, so that only means one thing. We have initial jobless claims here, and we did see some good news. We saw some downward movement here. Didn't hit a pandemic low, but nearing pandemic low. So we saw that upward movement of 419 initial claims last time. We see a fall of 24,000. So we're seeing that return. You know, we always talk about some subtle spikes down, subtle spikes down. So as long as the trend is moving downward, that is what matters.
So we went to 419.
Yeah.
What was it before the 419?
Before the 419, it was just below that 400,000 mark at 380.
Has this week's drop taken it back down again, or
it's below 400,000 again?
It is. Is it below the 2 week ago mark?
It's not.
Okay, so it's not quite a dead cat bounce. It's kind of a, okay.
So it's
all right, so that's a little worrisome, no?
It's a little worrisome, but the trend is downward moving, and so that's all that really matters. I mean, the other thing that is a little bit worrisome.
Trying to bait you into your cynicism. You did not work. You're too positive today.
Well, I got some sinisterism. I got some skepticism around here.
And some new vocabulary.
Some verbabulary. But continuing claims, that was another one that we have to look at because that's going to show the long-term trend. And so when we looked at continuing claims, it's slightly higher than we wanted to see. So continuing claims, not quite falling. And it's one of those things like if you want to be positive, we've come a long way. But the thing is, we still have a much longer way to go. I mean, that final little stretch here, when we look at the labor market, not quite there. We've seen reports across the country. Of course, it's going to be state-by-state basis, but we want to see it overall down pre-pandemic
It is,
levels.
but we all knew that there was going to be stutters as we recover, and we're in a stutter. Let's hope it's not a complete stall or reversal, right?
Exactly.
But you would think right now, based on the trends that are going on and the information we know about the supply chains that's moving on and consumer sentiment, although Zach doesn't like that, but you still got to look at it. I agree with you. It should be a stutter, right?
It should be. And so that's going to be the big thing. And of course, we can dive into different labor markets, different industries, things like that. They're going to have their own characteristics. Of course, I always talk about manufacturing and the things going on in there, how much more capital is entering the market. And even though there is a huge need for labor, that labor might shift in its style. Or you're looking at warehousing, things like that. Yeah. So those shippers looking for more employment, they're going to be I think it's going to get a little bit easier as we kind of get towards the latter half of 2021 into 2022, especially as those disposable incomes start to kind of diminish and more people kind of have to be, or kind of getting forced back to return back into the labor force right now.
Right.
One of the big things that we have to also kind of mention in our next chart here, Michael Vincent, this happens once a quarter, and it's GDP.
Oh yeah, okay.
We
have not discussed. I have not discussed this with you before. Yeah.
No. So
nice. Okay. So what do we got going on, bro?
So with GDP, we see that
this is
the latest
quarter
number.
Okay.
This is quarter over quarter, and this is real GDP quarter over quarter. And so last GDP number we got was 6.4%, and we saw much of the same of a 6.5% quarterly growth period for this latest number. So showing that it's still up there, it's still an increase, it's still above pre-pandemic levels when we look at overall real GDP, but a lot of people were expecting 8%, so a few percentage points higher.
That's a significant shortfall, is it not?
It is. And so some of the detractors we have to look at within it, of course, no surprise here, but consumer spending or consumer conditions. We're looking at disposable income that's down from those stimulus packages, things like that were really up there throughout the first quarter. Household income starting to come down a little bit, I think well over 20%. So those are going to be some of the trends that we're going to look into. The other thing that we have to look into within GDP, because of course we care about freight, a lot of it's going to be tied up into services. In our next chart, we're going to see the thing that really matters for GDP and for growth consumption and freight markets is GDP with goods adjusted. So we have in Sonar, if you haven't checked that out already, it's ticker GAGDP, and there's also a GAGDPY.USA. And what it does is strips out all the services and looks at strictly goods.